Welcome back, everyone. It's Success System Podcast, and we are back for season two. Did you miss us? Did you check the last episode before we left? If you didn't, it's okay. We're starting the year brand new and fresh. And so, what we wanted to do today is focus on, where we kind of started and where we think everybody should start. Just always reminding you guys the first thing that you need to do is work out over here. And so, we wanted to talk today's topic about building the life you want and the first three steps that we think everybody should take to design the life that you love. So, without further ado, why don't we just jump right into today's topic? So, today's episode, want to really just focus on you guys. Really, take a second to really just think about your life and just see if you're don't have a lot of drive, you feel stagnant, you feel stuck, you feel like you're running on a hamster wheel, you feel like you don't really know what to do with your life or even where to get started or how you want to move forward. And if this sounds like you, I think this episode, it would be very important for you to listen to. So why don't you tune in and we'll get into the next section.
What you will get after you take on these next important three steps that we're going to cover is you're no longer going to be living a life where you have no sense of direction. You're not going to be walking through life like you're lost or you don't know what you're doing. Instead of that, you're actually going to have a life of purpose and direction and feel like you are in control of your life, not living for anybody else, but living for yourself. And that feeling, that sense of certainty, is going to exude a sense of confidence in you that not only you yourself will see, but others around you are going to see. And so that's why we really need to get into the next three steps.
So, as we mentioned, there are three simple steps that you really need to take if you really want to start living a life that you not only love living, but a life that you love sharing with others. And the first step is the most important step because when you don't take this step, that's when you really start to notice yourself caught on that hamster wheel, constantly doing all this motion, exerting all this energy, but really not going anywhere in life. And on the flip side, once you've made this step, you can honestly start living a life with certainty, having that confidence, knowing that you are doing things for your betterment because you want to do them, not just because other people are telling you to do so. And that first step is in making the decision. And when we say making the decision, what we're referring to is you making the decision to take ownership of the life that you want to live. Right? Let's be honest, a lot of the times as people, we grow up and we want to be whatever it is the people around us tell us is the right thing to be. You want to be a doctor, chances are when you were a kid, someone told you, if you want to be successful, you got to be a doctor because doctors make all the money and they make the difference in life. And then 10 years later, you find yourself sitting in a med school class like, wow, I really hate this. I don't know why I want to do this in the first place, but a lot of that comes from you making the decision based off of other people's beliefs that you adopted when you were too young to really know what was happening. So if you really want to start living a life that you love, a life that you created, and a life that serves you, you have to make the decision to stand up and be like, no, this is my life. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to make my decisions, whether they turn out good, bad, indifferent, or ugly. I'm just going to own my decisions.
And just to add on to that, I think it's very important. Like you were adding, making decision. That's where we start with a lot of individuals because at the end of the day, if you can't make a decision to take ownership and to stop playing victim and to really just take responsibility for where you want to go and how your life is going to be, then you'll never move forward because you're always looking for something outside of you to make that decision for you. And if you're waiting for someone else to make that decision, it'll never come because you haven't made that decision.
Yeah, it reminds me of just to add on to that is I used to listen to ET, and one of his motivational speeches he talks about, when you give somebody else responsibility to make decisions over your life, whether it's going right or wrong, when things go wrong, I'm paraphrasing, but when things go wrong, you're looking to them to make the decision to change your life when it's not their life, right? Everyone's going to do what's in the best interest for them. And so you can't always rely on somebody else to make these decisions for you. At some point, you have to stand up and be like, you know what? This is my life. Act the decision, act with the way that I'm going to be proud, regardless of what that may look like or sound like to anybody else.
Yeah, and just to give you guys a little insight into what we mean by that is like, for me, for myself, just growing up, I had a lot of animosity and anger towards my parents. But knowing that, I would blame them for a lot of things in my life, and my life wasn't this because of X, Y, and Z. And so me just waiting for them to fix the problem was never going to happen. I was always setting up myself for failure. So I love Seven Habits of Highly Effective People because it talks about the paradigm of leadership and really just focusing on, we all start as dependents to everybody else at the bottom tier of things because we were relying on people, relying on our parents, relying on our friends, relying on our school system, relying on our support systems. But, at some point we need to rise above from being dependent on everybody to being independent. And when you become independent, you can start to take real ownership of your life and really enjoy the life that you're creating for yourself. And then get to that next level was interdependence, where you are integrated in society in a way that helps supports it and support the people around you so that you can improve their life, not only your life, but their life also.
Absolutely. And I honestly love that you brought that up, introducing that paradigm of leadership, because that's really what this first step is. And it's in you making the decision to step out of interdependence. I'm sorry, to step out of being a dependent and to step into your independence, right? And the whole point of stepping into your independence is to be able to say that regardless of how your life turns out, you got to where you are because of your choices, because of your decisions. And let's be honest, if you really want to live a life that you love, a life that you want to be able to sit down one day with your grandkids and tell them about all of your war stories, all of your heartbreaks, all of your victories, then you have to make your choices from yourself, which is also a great segue
To the
into
next.
our next step, right? Because now that you have made the decision to take ownership of your life, the next step really comes into play, because this next step is really where you're going to start to figure out and really understand, okay, now that I've made the decision to take ownership of my life, where do I want to go? Right. But one of the main issues that we see with a lot of people, including our clients, is people have a tendency to set these huge, lofty goals, which, don't get us wrong, we want you to set these huge, lofty goals. But if you don't know where you're starting, it's going to be very hard for you to realistically get to your goal, because you're essentially fishing at nighttime, right? And when you can't see anything and you don't know where you are, it's very hard to know if you're moving on the right path. Once you've taken this second step, and you gain that crystal clarity on where you are, it makes it so much more realistic for you to set out where you want to go, and it makes it that much more attainable for you to get there. Which leads us to our second step, which is
which is
gain.
gaining clarity. Oh,
Exactly.
go for it.
Take it away, Sherry J.
Yeah, so in a sense, gaining clarity, right? So in order to become or be where you want to be in life, you need to get crystal clear on where you want to go and who you want to be. And so, like Hardy had said, right, you can't just go around and fish at nighttime, right, in the dark, because you're not going to know where you're going, what your target is. If you don't have a target, you're always going to miss when you aim for it, since you don't know where the target is. And that's why it's really important to kind of take a step back and gain clarity in the sense of, okay, who am I right now? What are my characteristics and my traits? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? And I need to figure out a way to bridge the gap between the two. How do I get from point A to point B with what I have inside of me?
Yeah. And I think it's very important to know that the reason why gaining clarity about who you've been and where you want to go is to realize that if you don't know, if you can't articulate who you are right now and who you want to be, you're going to never move towards the life that you want for yourself. A lot of the problems that people have from anxiety and stress is it's really about them not making a decision in their own minds that I want to be this person. They flip flop. I want to be this person. Oh, but I kind of want to be that person. And so, without the clarity of really knowing who you want to be, you're just flip flopping. And that's why making a decision and gaining clarity are so important, because once you gain clarity, you got to just decide. Like, no more excuses, no more limiting beliefs, no more limitations, no more letting other people tell you that you can't be this person. And you're just going to move forward with that decision.
Without a doubt, right? And I'm sure if you've been really listening to what we're saying, then you're probably thinking right now, well, how do you actually gain clarity? Which leads us right into our next slide, right? Where we're actually going to switch up a little bit in season 2, and we are tearing down the gates. We're going to pull that curtain back, and we're going to actually give you access to systems that we create for our clients who pay us to help them not only design the life they want to live, but to create success systems and game plans to ensure that they get there, which leads us to our sustainable success square. This is the signature system that we use to help our clients, as I said, design the life that they would love to live, create success systems so that instead of being stressed over making decisions, they know exactly what to do, and to help them create a game plan to guarantee that they are consistently making progress towards the lives that they want to live. And we're going to actually take a step into this as we go into the next slide, and we're going to teach you our signature system. So this is our Simba system. Again, this is something that we go over extensively in our paid coaching program, but out of respect for our paid clients, we can't show you everything, but we will give you a glimpse into one thing that we think will be extremely beneficial to helping you design the life that you want to live. So as we go into this next step, we are actually going to help you create your sense of identity. And the reason why we're going to help you create your sense of identity is because we need you to understand that the way that you see yourself right now dictates the way that you interact with the world around you. And unfortunately, a lot of the times we as people, we tend to we tend to highlight all of our negative traits, and we tend to minimize all of our best traits. And I know myself, I did this for years. I spent so much of my life selling myself short, telling myself I wasn't good enough, telling myself I was missing too many things to succeed, telling myself that, oh, I could never make it because I didn't have the circumstances that everyone else have. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. I didn't have the best education. I didn't have all the support system who had laid these foundations for me. And for a long time, that really held me back. But once I realized that I get to dictate who I am and no one else has the power to interact with that, I really then had the ability to start building a life that I eventually learned to fall in love with.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, um, I agree with everything you just said. I think social media in today's day and age really emphasizes what you lack, not what you can appreciate right now, because you see what everybody else is doing, and they're posting them, they're traveling, they're showing you, them, they're having the best time of their lives, but they're only showing you a glimpse in the moment of their life. They don't really show you the whole picture, and so we tend to compare ourselves to those standards, and it's really those standards that are really killing a lot of us inside, because you cannot you cannot you can't do anything about the things that you don't have, right? Like putting any focus towards it is really just taking away your energy towards creating the life that you truly want for yourself. And so, like Coach Hardy said, it's like we really want to get the identity part really right, and just block out all the noise, right? Really spend the next couple of years to block out everybody else, block out the noise, block out who you want to show up as, and decide who you want to be. And we're going to show you some of the tactics and strategies that we use to help people kind of identify and craft their identity.
So the first step I would say that is necessary is you need to map out your worst self, right? In the sense of like how Coach Hardy had mentioned, how we like to highlight our worst qualities, right? Our worst qualifications. You need to map it all out and figure out what it is that is making you this bad individual. And the reason why that's important is because you need to know where you're starting from, right? If we don't know where our starting point is, how are we going to know how far or how long it's going to take us to get to our destination? And that's the reason why you really need to give yourself essentially a reality check, pull back that curtain and really see, okay, who am I? What do I not like about myself? What qualities do I that I have, but I don't longer want to attach myself to them, right? In order to know what you don't want to have in life, you have to know what they are.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, the beauty of this exercise and just doing the exercise is just getting everything out on paper, right? Because we live in our heads too much, and I think that's the number one problem, is that we're living in our heads and we're not really in touch with reality. So getting everything on paper so you can have a clear view of who you are, and realistically for this exercise, right, who you are at your worst, because knowing that you are not defined by you being your worst, it's just who you are when you're not you, right? Not you 100%. We're not going to go too in depth, but this is a little preview into our prosperity playbook. It's where we have our clients start. It's a great starting exercise to really just get that what we're basically telling you from this video of building the life that you want. The big thing that you need to focus here is really looking at, if you want to go to the next page, is really looking at the qualities that you identify with, right? Your worst qualities that have emotional charges to them, have stories to them. Someone might have said this about you. You might have experienced something. You really want to get very clear at the labels and the words and the things that you say about yourself, so you can start to analyze you and start to unpack and unravel some of the traumas that you may have dealt with in your life. There's a bunch of words out there, a bunch of adjectives. I'm not going to go through all of them, but this is really, feel free to pause the video and take a look at some of the adjectives and the words, and just start writing them down and trying to see what aligns with you. And I think the key thing here is, guys, taking the time to really take this seriously. Everybody who has taken this seriously has gotten some real great amazing results, in the sense of, once after just going through that process, it's very relieving. It's refreshing, I would say. It's like, you look at these experiences, you look at who you've been calling yourself, and you know, logically, rationally, that this is not you, right? These are you at your worst, when your emotions are out of control. So really want you to just take some time finding the words, that writing them down, getting it on paper, get a journal, asking yourself some questions. Some of the questions that we put here is like, who you are at your worst self. What do you see? We want you to draw a picture of this person. We want you to describe him as best as you can. We want you to know what words are you saying, how are you moving, how are you talking, how do you carry yourself. All of it is important. It's the analyzing of you from every aspect of you being the worst is so key, so that you can get a clear picture and start to break the programming of you being at your worst self. Being aware of it helps you start to see it in your reality, but no longer is knowing that you are not your thoughts and feelings at all. And so it's really trying to separate the two. It's like, you are the person, and then you have thoughts and feelings, but those thoughts and feelings do not determine you as the individual.
Absolutely, and I love what Amadeus said in the, you will get out of this exercise what you put into this exercise, because this is an exercise that we have used. It's helped me tremendously in really just seeing who I am, right? I think a lot of times our default is to live in this negative failure loop in our heads, right? Where you have this negative thought, and then you find yourself living out these thoughts in real time, and when you just over and over and over again and it goes unchecked, before you know it, you start identifying with these labels that cannot serve you, right? You start telling yourself, I'm impulsive, I'm indecisive, I'm not good enough, right? And honestly, it's just not the case. A lot of times, will you act in manners that align with these labels? Yes, right? Because everyone has these, right? No one is perfect. But it's important that you understand that you are greater than the sum of all of your worst days, which is part of why we want you to be serious and to really take time in doing this exercise, so that you can separate yourself from these instances that are not, from these instances that don't define the entirety of your characters. Like, these are just who you are on your worst days, but who you are at your core is right here. It's not down here. It's right here. And only you get the power to see that you are here and you're not down here, right? This really goes back into that step one in you making the decision to take ownership and to step out of these labels and to see yourself for who you actually are. Which leads us great into the next part. It's like, we don't want you to just listen to this episode and brush it off. We want you to actually take some time, right? Pause this video and take some time, reflect on what you just heard, and then go back and go through those adjectives that we displayed for you, right? Circle the ones, write down the words that align with parts of yourself, right? Go back and actually answer those questions so that you can really start to see yourself objectively, right? Because it's only when you see yourself outside of who you've been that you'll be able to find out who you actually are at your core.
If you guys have paused your video, I'm hoping you did. We're going to move on to the next exercise, which is your best self. Now that we've analyzed you at your worst, we want to take some time to analyze you at your best, because we all know at the end of the day, humans are complex creatures. And one day we're on cloud nine, and the other day we're just depressed as shit. But the key here is reminding yourself that, like Coach Hardy said, is that you are none of these moments, right? And the real beauty of this exercise is really getting clear, so that once you know when you're at your worst, the patterns, the behaviors, the actions, the thoughts, and you look at your best and you see the patterns, the behaviors, and the words, your goal should be working toward that best version of yourself more days than the worst. Knowing that, guys, I'm not saying the bad days are going to disappear forever. It's just not realistic. You're still gonna have those days. Things are gonna still they're gonna still have hard days. But the key thing is reminding yourself that no event can really throw you off. You build more emotional resilience because you're uplifting yourself instead of tearing yourself down. We're gonna pull up the exercise from our book for the best self, so you guys can have it, have some of the images, and take a look at some of the adjectives and do the exercises. Like really get into it. And like we said, pause this, read the. We're giving you guys a glimpse. This is we're giving it to you guys, right? Where we don't want to gatekeep anything. We want to just see how we can help individuals, and really just feel free to reach out to us too, and either through comments or SSP at our email is SSP podcast success system podcast at gmail.com at waytoospicy.com. My bad. But really, just we want to hear your feedbacks, and if you guys need guidance in that process, so we can just try to see how we can actually give you some of the insights that you may be missing.
Yeah. And just to add on to this, right, for the ideal self exercise, right? Because for me personally, I struggled in the beginning of actually writing down positive adjectives to describe myself. And so for me, what really helped, and it might help you too, which is why I'm saying this, is start off with writing down the compliments that you get from your friends, family, colleagues, peers, right? Those people are giving you genuine compliments because they see these traits, these adjectives in you that you may not even see for yourself. So for me, I started writing down the different compliments that I got from other people, and that helped really spark the thought process of me thinking of, oh, well, what other great qualities do I possess that I probably don't think of top of mind every day?
Yeah, without a doubt. And then
Okay.
honestly, from there, I would say once you have your list of compliments, because let's be honest, you can't argue with those words because those people are giving you genuine compliments based on how they have felt interacting with you. Then come back and go through this list, right? Because this list might give you more memories or access to more compliments that you may have brushed off in the moment, but now that you're looking for them intentionally, you'll start to really see that, wow, I am a very generous person. Wow, I am a very lovable person. Wow, maybe I am a very principle centered individual who just looks out for other people. And then come and really start to add some depth to your ideal self, right? Start to articulate what genders are it, do you identify with an animal? Is it a mystical creature, right? What wisdom is living within you that you may be taking for granted? And the reason why we had you do your worst self before your ideal self is because it is easier for us to see ourselves in negative light, right? It's easy for you to hearken on the moments where you mess up, the moments where you feel like a failure, the moments where you feel like you are validating the belief you had from 10 years ago that you'll never be able to be successful, which is why we started there. And the reason why we are bringing you to this ideal self is because we still want you to know the same way you're not this low person on your worst days, you're also not this great figure on your ideal days, right? You're an encapsulation of all of these things, but until you know who you are on your worst days and who you are on your best days, it's going to be very hard for you to find out who you are at your core, which is really the important thing because it's when you find out who you are at your core that you'll then be able to see where you are actually starting from. And then you'll be able to see where do you want to go from here.
Yeah.
And again, right, really spend some time like what is your number one superpower? And I'll tell you from my experience, for a long time I had no idea. I had no idea I even had a superpower, right? I was definitely that kid who, right, I was a little bit of a nerd. I'll own it, right? I like every now and then, right, try to see if I got the force, move a little something, right? Unfortunately, I don't have the force, but that doesn't mean I don't have a superpower. In the same way, that doesn't mean that you don't have superpower because there's something in this world that you do better than everybody else, right? And that thing that
100%.
that thing that you are the best at is your superpower. Lean into it, embrace it, right? Don't hide it from the world because you weren't meant to fit into the world. You were meant to shine. You were meant to stand out. You were meant to show someone else in this world that they can give themselves permission to shine because they're going to watch you give yourself permission to shine.
Yeah, and it's remembering that superpower you're probably thinking that this is just normal. This everybody's able to do it, but realistically, most people are not able to do things, right? So don't limit it. Don't hide it under anything. Really, just take the time to let whatever speaks to you, whatever speaks to your heart, and letting it out.
So with that being said, we want you to pause this video, right? Take 5 minutes to brain dump, essentially write down everything that we just spoke about, and we want you to reflect on those things that we just shared. And then we want you to take another 30 minutes to really go through that exercise and identify what are your best self qualities, what makes you you, what is your superpower, what is it that you do that no one else can do, no matter how hard they try or how badly they want to. So take that moment to do it and then come right back to us.
Welcome back. If you just came back from pausing us, we hope that you have gained some new insights from doing the exercises. And if you did not pause this video, don't do yourself the disservice. Go back, pause this video, and do the exercise, because I promise you, you are going to get a tremendous amount of value from doing those exercises. But with that being said, we would just like to do a little recap before moving on. So just recapping now, we went over the first step, right, which is in the you making the decision to take ownership of your life so that you can build a life that you love. We went over how this is the most important step, because if you're not doing things for your own reasons, if you're not doing things because you want to do them, if you're not doing them because these are the things that inspire you, it does not matter how successful you become, you're never going to feel like you are walking in alignment, like you're walking in your purpose, and you're not going to be happy, let alone love your life. Right? Once you've made the decision to take ownership of your life, the next thing you need to do is gain clarity on who you are as a person right now. Right? Really going over who you are on your worst days, who you are on your best days, so you can see who you are at your core. Because the person that you are at your core is your starting point in building the life that you want to love. Right? And the way that we did that is we pulled the curtain back, we gave you some access into our signature systems, and we showed you behind the scenes looks into our prosperity playbook, where we gave you the best self exercise, the ideal self exercise and the worst self exercise, to really start to let you see who you are outside of yourself. Right? It's really taking these thoughts out of your head, putting them on paper, so you can distance yourself from these labels and really start to be in alignment with who you are. And those two steps were so important because they segue perfectly into the third step. Because the third step is where the magic happens, right? When you don't make this third step, it's not enough for you to make the decision to take ownership of your life. It's not enough to know who you are, because you may know where you're starting, but without this third step, you're never going to go anywhere. Let's be honest, when you give people too many choices, they make no decision at all. And that's where a lot of people are. And the reason is they haven't made this third step. But you're not going to be like those people, because once you make this third step, you're going to have an exact idea, step by step, on the person that you want to become, on how you're going to create and cultivate a life that you love. And that's in your decision to create your custom game plan that lays out exactly how you're going to get from your starting point, which is today, right now. If you've done the exercise, this is your starting point, and you're going to create that vision of the future that you want to create, so that you can create this life that you are head over heels in love with.
All right. So, yes, absolutely agree. In order to create the life that you are head over heels in love with, we need to know, well, what does that life look like? And so it wouldn't be a Success System podcast episode if we didn't actually have you guys diving deep into this next step, which is, in order for you to make a decision to change your life, to know what you want, and to create a game plan, now is the part where you actually create the game plan. And what I'm alluding to is actually writing down a 5-year letter, right? Now is the time to really sit down with yourself and ask yourself, well, what do I want in life? Who do I want to be? What does my life look like in 5 years? And the reason why you need to do this is because, again, if you do not have a target, how are you going to know if you've hit the target when you're shooting your arrow, right? You need to know what you're aiming towards. And so we're going to dive deeper and talk about the different layers of the 5-year letter that we want you to speak about. But before I go, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. So with the 5-year letter, I think the key thing here is really, I'm a big believer in power manifestation. But you got to know what you want before you can manifest it. If you don't know what you want, you're always going to get just randomness. And so knowing that sometimes you're not going to get what you want in the way that you planned it. But the whole point of this plan of creating that 5-year vision, getting that long term, is to start getting ideas and then start walking towards that path. And as you walk towards that path, walk towards that vision, you will start to change your idea of what your future looks like, because now you're getting practical feedback from your experience of living life. And we can only speak from our own experiences, right? We made 5 years ago, when we started this journey, we really got deep into, okay, who do we want to be? How do we want to show up? Okay, let's be coaches. It's like, oh, okay, let's be coaches. Oh, where do we even start being a coach, right? And so we didn't even know where to start. We didn't know what resources we needed access to. But along the journey, the resources just kind of showed up, right? We were looking for them. And so because we were looking for them, we were aware of them, and we started getting those resources, and we started working towards the person that we want. But we got clear on how we wanted to show an impact for the world. And now looking back at the 5 years, it didn't go exactly as we planned. I can myself, it didn't go exactly as a plan, but I'm a lot forward in my life of where I want to be than I am 5 years ago. Guys, I was never a content guy. I don't like putting my face on. I don't do this stuff. But I was like, you know what? I have to overcome a lot of these limiting beliefs and start to embrace this part of who I am. And I think we all were at that point where we were just like, oh man, this is, whoa, we got to do this. We got to take ourselves out of our comfort zone, and it's part of the process. It's really just really, so we, take your time with this, really get emotional, really get attached to whatever you write here, because it's so important for you to be able to resonate with the strong vision in the future for yourself. Because along the journey, there are going to be people who doubt you. Along the journey, there are going to be people who don't believe in you. There are going to be people telling you, why are you doing this? You shouldn't do this with your life. Let me tell you what you should do with your life instead. And it's just part of the process. Everybody thinks their opinion is fucking gold. Oh, I swear, I don't know on YouTube, but everybody thinks their opinion is gold. And so it's realizing, getting clear on what you want, so you can block out all the noise from everybody else. Because as long as you're working towards what you want, everybody else's opinion really doesn't matter.
Period.
Yeah.
And with that being said, let's actually dive into 5 areas of focus that we think you would benefit tremendously from focusing on in crafting your 5-year letter. Right. And the first area that we're going to focus on is really the one I feel like most people tend to struggle with, because it is kind of in that woo woo abstract area, right? But if you're here and you've been with us since the beginning, we're here for the woo. This is who we are, right? It may not be for everyone, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but it's fine because it's our shot of choice, right? And that's really tapping into and getting aligned with who you are at your core, and tapping into your spirituality, right? And knowing that we really are we are spirits having a human experience, right? You're not just you are not just the things you experience, right? You are so much more than what you go through, your circumstances, people's perceptions of you, right? And the reason why we want you to focus on who you want to be spiritually is because we need you to do the internal work, right? We need you to go and heal that hurt inner child. We need you to go and figure out, do these beliefs that I have, one, where do they come from? And two, do they serve the person that I aspire to be? Right. And I can only speak from my own experiences, right? And for me, tapping into my spiritual journey was a major game changer for me, because once I tapped into my spiritual journey, I started to realize that I was this angry little kid eat well into my adulthood, right? And that's really where I learned that although I was a man by age, I was not a man in my actions, right? I was acting as a little boy, and a lot of times I didn't realize this until I became emotionally triggered,
Yeah.
right? When someone angered me, I went back to being that 7-year-old boy who was hurt, and I go into this blind fury and this rage, and I have to explode, and I have to chop you at your knees, only to sit back a couple hours later and be like, why did I do that? That's not who I am. Why am I letting my emotions take me out of my character? And the reason why that was so easy for that to happen was because I wasn't doing enough internal work. I wasn't healing myself spiritually. I wasn't cleansing my soul. I wasn't moving in alignment with the person that I wanted to be, because I was so clouded by everyone else's idea of who I was that I had attached to. Right. So I say all this to say, start doing the work to heal yourself internally, right? And I'll tell you around, this isn't work that's going to be easily visible to everyone outside of you. And it's not about them, right? It's not personal, but it's personal between you and you at your core, because the inner child inside of you needs you now more than ever. And I don't care how old you are, if you have not done the work to heal your inner child, I guarantee you are still acting out of that inner child anytime you are triggered in the same way that you were hurt back when you were that kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I co-sign everything you say, and with the spirituality, it's really pick whatever you want, right? For myself, I studied, I'm a Christian. I read a lot about the Bible. I read some of the Quran. I read some, the Buddhist, some of the knowledge about Buddhism, right? I really keep myself personally, I like to say I'm more spiritual than anything, but I keep myself open to all forms of spirituality so I can see, is there something I can take that could help benefit my life? And I know that's not a popular thing because everybody wants you to pick a side, but y'all really screw everybody else. Whatever works for you is key, and whatever you want for yourself spiritually, right? Whatever vibes with your heart, with your spirit, with who you are at your core, go for it. Don't let anybody's judgment really affect you and stop you from expressing yourself.
This area of life that we believe is super important to focus on is the physical sense, right? And we're talking about like your body in the sense of like how do you want to feel in 5 years, right? What do you want to be doing? Do you want to be an active individual? Do you want to be able to go up and down a flight of stairs and not be winded? Do you want to be eating healthy fruits and vegetables? Do you want to be a vegetarian? Right? How do you want yourself to present to the world in its physical form? Okay, we oftentimes society will make us believe that we don't have control of how we're going to look 5-10 years from now, or the or have sorry control of our health, but we absolutely do have control of those things, and that all starts from today in the sense of what do you put in your body. And I'm not talking about just like food that you consume. I'm talking about like the books that you read, the programs that you watch, the radio stations that you listen to. All of those things have a somatic effect on your body and will cause an effect 1, 3, 5, 7 years from now.
To add on to the physical is really like we put the physical on, like, I would say the next stage of that star is realizing a lot of people, they start their work on the physical because they don't like the way they look, they don't like how people see them, and so they think the work is really on the physical, and that's part of it. But we wanted you to have an idea of what you want to look like, how you want to feel, how you're moving your body, because it's so important. Like in this day and age where health is not the priority for our healthcare system, you should make it the priority for yourself.
Without a doubt, and honestly, that's literally what I was gonna say is that a lot of people start their self development, self growth journey in the physical realm, myself included, right? It's in the showing up every single day to work on yourself physically because you don't like the way that other people perceive you. And it's really this weird thing where it's like if you're into fitness, then you've experienced it yourself, and if you're new to fitness, you may not have experienced this yet, but you will experience it. I guarantee you that. But one day you're gonna wake up, and it's literally gonna be like a switch, like night and day, where all of a sudden you stop caring about the aesthetic reason that was pulling you to go to the gym, and you just start to realize, wow, I feel amazing once I'm working on my physical health, right? As I treat my body with respect, my body is in turn treating me with respect. I feel happier, I have more energy. And of course, the aesthetics is a nice cherry on top. But working on the physicality aspect also segues perfectly into the next aspect, right? And that's really in the doing the internal work, not necessarily in the spirit, but really working on that mentality, right? And
Yeah,
the
your
understanding
mindset.
that your mindset dictates everything, right? There's a reason why everything you ever see someone do, they're always gonna tell you, once I change my mindset, I changed my life, right? And it's in this understanding that you are what you think you are. So if you don't think highly of yourself up here, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter who you are at your core. You're always going to act out of the way that you see yourself, right? So really, when you're writing your 5 year letter, start to figure out what type of mindset do I want to have in 5 years, right? Say, for instance, you have a career goal that you're chasing for 5 years. We spend time to articulate, well, how would your mindset need to change from today over the next 5 years to ensure that you become that person, right? I know for myself, 5 years ago, I had a mindset and I was in the gym and I told myself, oh, I'm in the gym and I'm here to get big, right? I was just here for the physical aesthetics, right? But over time, I learned that I didn't care for the physical aesthetics over time, right? I became this person who worked out because working out was a sign of respect to myself. It was a way that I showed my self love, right? I took care of my body because as I took care of my body, I had more clarity in my mental. And when I had more clarity in my mental, it was easier for me to really see who I am at my core, right? It really all tied into helping me become a holistically balanced individual and start to grow into who I wanted to become.
Yeah, and as you guys see in our 5-star letter, we don't want you to neglect any aspect of your life, right? We want you to
Mm-hmm.
get clarity on every aspect of your life, and this is just the starting point. Where realistically, there's so much areas of your life that you can focus on, but we think these 5 are so important right now in the journey that you're taking on for yourself.
Which is a great segue, right? Bringing us down to the foundational aspects of our star and also the foundational aspects of your 5-year letter. And the first foundation we're going to start with is the one that honestly may be the most important of them all, right? And that's really figuring out who do you want to be emotionally over the next 5 years, right? Because who you are emotionally is what's going to determine how you live your life, regardless of your circumstances. Because let's be honest, 80% of how we react in this world is based on our emotions. But when you work on your emotional health, when you step out of being emotionally reactive and step into being emotionally and logically responsive, it is literally a whole nother game. And we're not going to spend too much time going over how to become emotionally less reactive because we're actually going to give you great insights into that on our next episode. So make sure you tune back in because that one's not one you're going to want to miss.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna go ahead with
But
that. I don't know if there's anything my co-host would
yeah,
like to add before
so
moving
I'll
on.
add, guy, just letting you know how we messed up our slide. It says experiences should be emotion, but I'm sure y'all are okay with that.
Just pretend it says emotions.
Exactly. But I think the key thing, in going back to 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is learning. Dr. Stephen Covey, right?
Yep.
He talks about before there's this. I forgot the term 100%, but before you respond,
In between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space is your
there's a choice.
ability to make a conscious decision, aka a choice.
Yeah, and so to understanding that your emotions are based off the stimulus or the stimuli or whatever you're reacting to or getting triggered by in your environment, in your own mind, bunch of different things, but realizing that your emotional growth, you get to decide that. You are not your emotions, right? Like, and sometimes they may overwhelm
Absolutely.
you, but you're not your emotions. Like, you get to really build your emotional resilience if you work on it. It's a habit, it's a muscle, and like Coach Hardy said, we'll talk more about that in our next episode.
Yep. And the last point of the star is, in the sense of it's important to get in tune with yourself spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally, is we also want you to have fun in life and actually enjoy the experiences that happen. Oh, there's emotional. And enjoy those experiences, right? And why is this important, right? Why? Well, what good is it living a life if you're not going to enjoy your life and actually have fun and embrace new experiences that help form you to become the person you say you want to be, right? Nobody wants to be going through life serious all the time and bah humbug, they got all these things correct, da da da. But it's like, yeah, okay, sure, you can live like that if you want, right? Personal choice. But why would you want to do that, right? Don't you want to go out and have fun and be at the end of your road and be like, you know what, I got to experience everything I said I wanted to experience. I lived life out fully. I maximized out of life. And that is the goal that we want for you guys. That's my personal goal. And I'm sure that's the goal for Hardy and Amadeus as well. Is yes, we want it to be holistically balanced in life, but we also want to be present and enjoy life for the precious gem, the precious gift that it is that God has given us.
Yeah, and
1000%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to add more to that? All right.
You can go ahead. That's just wanted to add on.
Oh yeah,
My cosign.
I was gonna.
I'm stamping that 1000%.
No, and I wanted to add on to that because I think it's important in this day and age right now because I think they're raising the retirement age and your Social Security
again
cut, right?
Again.
It's understanding that they want us to work for the rest of our lives and then enjoy life once we're old and decrepit and can't do anything. I say F that. Focus on enjoying life now because tomorrow's not guaranteed. Like, we have had a lot of crazy things happen to us in the last 5 years. Like, enjoy life at areas. Don't forget to plan, right? The reason we're here is because we're planning, right? But we want to enjoy every moment of us living life because every moment is precious.
Yeah, Absolutely. So even a small example, right? There's a new ice cream shop. You want to go try it out? Don't put it off. Go give it a try. Maybe you want to go give it a try after you've, I don't know, hit a certain goal. Then do that. But what we're saying is don't rob yourself out of precious life moments, right? They're given to you for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Take advantage of them. Yeah.
Absolutely right. So now that you have the three simple steps that you can take starting today to start building the life that you live, and you know that you can create this 5-year vision of really getting crystal clear on who you want to be. The question becomes, where do you go from here? Right? And the answer is, like we said, it's in the planning, right? You know where you are now. You have some clarity on that. You know where you want to be in 5 years, but take it another layer deep, right? Who do you want to be a year from now? Right? Spiritually, who do you want to be? Physically, who do you want to be? Mentally, who do you want to be? What fun experiences do you want to be able to look back a year from today and be like, man, I'm so glad I took that vacation time and I went to go do X. Right? Really start to add some concepts. Where do you want to be a year from now? Because having 5-year goals is amazing because in 5 years you can be an entirely different person. So you can be outlandish with your goals, which I highly recommend, right? I'm a big believer. If your goals are something that's easy to attain, you don't have goals, right? Your goals should make people come to you like, I don't know if you can do that. And your response should be, watch me do it. Okay. But with your 1 year goal, start to figure out, okay, who can I realistically be 1 year from today? Because don't get me wrong, in 1 year, you can completely change your life, right? So if you don't like where you are right now, create that vision of who you want to be a year from now, because a year from now you can be head over heels in love with the person that you are and have so much gratitude for yourself and watching this video and going and actually taking these steps needed to become that person. And then once you have that 1 year vision, we want you to take it another layer deeper and create your 90-day game plan, right? Now that you know where you're starting from, right? You know who you are on your worst days. You know who you are when you let your emotions get the best of you. You know who you are when you're triggered, but you also know who you are on your best days. You know who you are when you choose to be the bigger person, not to appease the other person, but because that's what serves who you want to be, right? So use all of these resources and tools that you now have to create your 90-day checklist so that you can make sure that you're actively making progress, because realistically you are so much closer to the life that you live than you are honestly thinking of, right? Don't sell yourself short and don't think that something is unattainable for you, because you have more than enough and you are more than good enough to create and cultivate a life that you are absolutely in love with.
Yeah, and just to keep kind of go off of what
Amen.
you just said there, one of the biggest challenges I think a lot of people have is just getting the energy to just initially start,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes it may take you a couple weeks to just like, all right, I'm ready today. But one thing I would keep in mind, like it's helped going to Mel Robbins using her 5 second rule, like whatever you decided to do, count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just do it. Right. The reason why most of us wait is because we talk ourselves out of greatness. And so
Mm-hmm.
do not take the moment to talk yourself out of greatness. Know what you want, get clear on your vision, and start going after what you want and go after it relentlessly and do whatever you need to do to get yourself to that state to get you there. And there's lots of tips and tricks and techniques out there. It's finding what makes sense for you as an individual, because you're unique, you're special, and you're one of a kind. So find out what works for you and start living the life that you're meant to live.
That part.
I feel like
But
that's the perfect segue
yeah,
to really wrap up this episode. So, in case you're new here, guys, this has been the Success System Podcast. We are way too spicy, and you can connect with us and reach out to us. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and drop a comment. If you have questions, drop the comments. We'll respond. If you love this episode, regardless of what you're listening to, share it with someone that you know could benefit from what we just gave you, because we want to be a resource to you. We want to help, and we want to see you grow. So if you're watching this, I don't want to hear the excuse, I didn't know where to start, because we're giving you the game. No BS, no gatekeeping. We are pulling the curtains down. We're tearing down the walls, because this is your success season. And we can want it for you and we can give you all the resources, but we cannot do the work for you. But if you need help with the work, we are here for you. As always, you can reach out to us. If you have specific questions, you want to build a specific game plan, check out the show notes wherever you're watching this, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, and there'll be information on how you can reach out to us, how you can work with us, how you can have your questions answered directly, or just reach out to any of the coaches individually. Myself, you can find me on Instagram at I am Hardy Jean. That is IAM like Marie, HARD like David, YJEAN as in Nancy.
Yep, and you can reach out to me on Instagram. I am Sherry J. That is IAMSHERRIJ.
And you can find me on IG, Coach Amadeus, AMADEUS.
As always, this has been the Success System Podcast. We are way too spicy, and we will see you next time.
Have a great night, great day. What up?
Okay. Are we
Ba-da-ba.
perfect? You do that. Pow.